Hi, everybody. Today I'm taking a closer look at a classic war game by Avalon Hill, published in 1961, simply called Civil War. This will be an abbreviated gameplay slash session report video review with a brief rules explanation to start, and I will use the free online gaming tool Vassal Engine to demonstrate some of the features this obscure title has to offer. So, why this game, made way back when? A couple of reasons, actually. I want to learn more about the American Civil War subgenre within the greater whole of war games. I feel like I've left myself out of that community. Like I was never able to break into that category of gaming in the past, and I want to change that. I want to learn and play some of the classic titles that cover the topic, so I thought, why not start at the beginning? I love old war games, especially Hex and Counter. Also, it's old enough now that its material components are virtually public domain, with pictures of everything online to the extent that you could print and play the game in its entirety, or you could utilize Vassal or the game table if you don't require a physical copy. In addition, over the years, many people have posted revisions and rules adjustments online that you can try if you're looking to adjust the balance or otherwise enhance gameplay. And as you'll see in a bit, I'm going to test an adjusted rules set in this video to see if I can get something better than what I've seen thus far with more than a few playthroughs. Before we get into that, I'll take a minute to explain the rules. They were, in fact, a big selling point for me because they're so clean and concise and easy to understand. You can one-page summary them easily, and then I'll show you an example of mine. Anyway, this game recreates a very simplified strategic struggle between the North and South, Union versus Rebels, blue versus gray, or in this case, blue versus red, and nothing more. There's no politics and no other fine details are present. Each side gets generic pawns that are all the same value, only the colors are different, and yet overall it's brutally asymmetrical in favor of the North, as you might expect. So how do you play? Well, the object is for the Union. They have to wipe out the rebels and occupy their supply centers before time runs out, and there's like a time grid there. It goes from 1861 to 1865. And rebels win if they survive that time limit or if they can occupy two Union supply centers for 2 turns, and the supply centers are represented by stars on the map. The initial setup is simple. The Union places 6 armies, 2 hexes above the crosshatch border, and rebels place 6 armies below the border anywhere. Turn structure is very simple. Each side moves and then fights. Then after that, you just record a month on the time track. The Union goes first. Movement is base 2 hexes, but you also can't move through enemy zones of control. Mountain non-rail movement is just reduced to 1, but if you're on a railroad, you get +8 to your movement, but there's no hopping lines, and you cannot leave a rail line until your next turn. And that's a rule I think a lot of people miss. The Union can also move 8 hexes by sea if they depart through a port, and they must stop adjacent to a port for a turn before they can attack into it on their next turn. Combat is also very simple, and it's resolved on a CRT, and each pawn has a combat factor of just 1. If you move adjacent to an enemy, you have to fight. You resolve each battle with a 1d6 on the CRT, and no pawn attacks more than 1 time per turn. Every enemy pawn must be attacked if they are adjacent, and you cannot retreat through enemy zones of control. That would result in elimination. The defender doubles their defense on mountain, river, or port hexes. Ports only if they are attacked from the sea space. They don't get a double if it's overland attack. And replacements are handled at the end of a complete turn in a box with an asterisk on the turn record chart. Union gets 3 replacements and the rebels get 2 replacements. To get replacements, the center hex must be undisputed, so you can't have an enemy unit whose zone of control overlaps your supply center. And the max army strength is 15 units or army groups for the Union, and 9 army units for the rebels. And that's the entirety of the rule set. So you can't get any simpler for a hex encounter war game, I don't think. So how does it all play out? In practice, what will this all entail if you use this unmodified base rule set? Well, I've found that with some experience, either one of two outcomes is highly likely. Of course, consistent horrible luck with the CRT, or maybe miracle runs of luck might alter expected outcomes. But whatever happens, the general body of Confederate gameplay will determine how and when the game ends. Since the red player can't replace losses as readily as blue, and since it doesn't take long before the South becomes almost hopelessly outnumbered, there's a very strong urge to play fast and loose with red, at least initially, and to take large risks at the start of the game. In other words, to not play optimally with respect to the odds. And it's so easy to fall into this trap because, well, almost everyone does this the first time they play the Rebels. And unfortunately, it doesn't work. When the Union player sees this aggressive opening, they keep their army groups on defensible terrain until they have the numbers to go on the offensive. And they don't have long to wait. This means the South will be rolling on the 1-to-1 column of the CRT for the most part while attacking, and 3 of the 6 possible outcomes are not acceptable. The 1 exchange result is almost never advantageous to the Rebels, and the 2 attacker eliminated results instantly pull the plug. As the game progresses, time and again, the red player will see the blue player launch reckless attacks with their endless replacements, and they'll want to do the same because sometimes the Union side will win spectacular low percentage victories, but blue can afford to take all the risks and red can't. But the urge to emulate the North becomes too great, and that's the downfall. And I can even be more specific in describing what that looks like on the map. In the West, typically you see large battles at either Fort Pillow or Fort Henry. The North tends to crash against these locations at 1-to-1 until they get an exchange or defender eliminated result that sends the red player reeling backwards. The East is a different story. With 3 army groups, the South can create an insanely tough and tight defensive position around Richmond and Stephenville. And the easiest way for the North to outflank this position is by sea. Eventually, and this will take many rounds of play to set up, they will be able to lay siege to the main ports on the East Coast with replacement armies. These will be low percentage attacks for the most part, 1-to-1, but eventually one will go in their favor and the South will have to scramble to contain the breakout. And they may not be able to do this, especially if they're fully committed somewhere on the Mississippi trying to plug gaps out west. So usually the South can muster enough force to launch serious counter attacks on either side of the map, like once or twice, before the North nails the coffin lid shut. You see these decisive turning point battles usually around Shiloh, Tennessee in the west, or around Norfolk or another port like that on the east side of the map. Overall, if the South plays overly aggressive and reckless, the Union player can finish them off fairly quickly around January or February of 1862 in this game. Now, what if, as the Rebel player, I never take any chances? What if I never intentionally place any army group on a non-double defense hex and never attack at 1-to-1 odds, unless maybe I have a blue unit surrounded and the defender retreat results in eliminated situation? Well, this overall look can buy you an extra year or maybe a year and a half in game skill. I have found the North is still coming and they can afford to risk and lose a single 1-to-1 battle pretty much every turn. I wouldn't say much more than that, but still some of these are going to go in their favor, and that's simply devastating to the South. The Rebels aren't like Russia in World War II either. They can't easily trade space for time. They don't have great defensible terrain in the deep south around their supply centers. So once they get thrown back far enough, their lines destabilize and the end is nigh. On BGG, however, you may find a link in the Civil War file section that redirects you to Con Sim World. Here, fans of the game have uploaded different rules adjustments that are meant to make the Confederate side more viable and thus improve the game. So in this video, I'm going to play a rule set uploaded by a user named John Griffey in 2008. He came up with one important rules modification and an adjusted CRT. He suggests giving all city hexes double defense, not just river, mountain, and ports attacked by sea. And I think that's a good suggestion. And his adjusted CRT makes huge changes to the 1-to-1, 2-to-1, and 3-to-1 columns. His revisions are in red on a chart that I printed out, and I'll just show you what it looks like now. Anyway, the big takeaway from the new chart is that it's a lot less punishing to the attacker, and most results wind up with retreats and such. So let's play and see what happens. And I'll probably only show some highlights and skip over any lulls in the action. And I'll add some ambiance, of course. And so we'll talk more specifically about some of the action here. Okay, so we'll take a look at the action. In this point, you can see the north sailing down the eastern seaboard, but we will stick to a session report as opposed to a live playthrough, I think, just to cut down on the video time. And this game, there's not too much detail on the map, so I think a summary is just as valuable here. I always thought, though, this game would be amazing if you print out or buy a physical copy and dress out the pawns with minis from maybe a Civil War chess set or some sort of other painted things. You get a really good visual presentation, I think. The physical game is also way faster because you don't have to, manipulate windows and menus. I mean, it's as fast as a game of chess with two people. And I think one way to play, too, which would be really cool, is knowing that it's hard to get close to a victory with the South. You could simply play two games, like record how well each player does with the South, and then compare results, and then come up with a winner that way. Because the games don't take long, especially once you're familiar with the rules. And I mean, it's a one-pager, so. You notice too, when I'm resolving battle results with Vassal, I find it annoying when the dice roller is resting on a value, and then you click it and it's the same result. It's like you don't get a roll, so I always tap it a few times and take the third result just so I feel like I'm actually doing something. So that's one thing I wanted to point it out. In this game, you can see there was a lot of exchange results, even on the modified CRT, and this was unlucky for the South, but it was, I mean, there's probably 3 major battles back to back where the result was 2, and it just so happens that even on the modified CRT, the 2 result on 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 is still exchanged, so it was, very unlucky for the rebels. Another thing you have to mention too, I guess it's fair to say that if you're going to criticize this game, you could do it on, I guess, historical accuracy grounds, meaning there are things that are not likely. For example, it's hard for the Union player to replicate the carving the South down the Mississippi River, as would happen in real life. It's the breakthroughs tend to come further east. That's what I've seen. it seems unrealistic as well to ever see a battle with standard rules in Gettysburg. Like that seems like way too far north for the rebels to ever penetrate. You can also see the capitals flip ownership, like Washington or Richmond and Stephenville. So I mean, that's not realistic either. So even though I really like the map, I mean, the depiction of the terrain and stuff is really good. So here we have a really important battle. It was a huge turning point developing. So this is at the bend of the Tennessee River, and the Union is going through, or is going to attempt a very important breakthrough south of Nashville. It's going to be 1-to-1 odds, and then there's another offensive on the East Coast. Just going to push towards Richmond. I don't think. We'll resolve the battle here. You can lay attack markers down in case the board gets really busy. Those do not come with the physical game board, to the best of my knowledge. It's helpful though, playing the game this way. So what will happen in these two critical attacks? Okay. Tap the roller a few times. And I believe the 3 result on the modified CRT is going to be an attacker retreat, I think. Double check that. Yes. AR2. So we can celebrate with a Dixieland instrumental. That'll be like the only time you hear that this game, because mainly it's the Union moving forward. Oh yeah, what I was going to say also, in the original rules, there was accommodation for river movement, which I thought was interesting, but they got rid of it with a little slip of paper they included in the game, and it said like delete those rules. And I think it allowed for the Union to move like 6 extra hexes down river spaces, and the Union could do like 2. But apparently it was too imbalancing. But I don't know. I would try to somehow incorporate that into maybe 2.0 rule set here. I like the idea of having that in play, that option. Another thing that I might consider, like obviously the modified CRT, but I think that's just one step. I think there's a few things you could consider. And one is maybe to allow the South to have at least one ship in the Atlantic Ocean, and then maybe have obviously have unlimited for the North. But I don't know. I think the South should have the opportunity to at least have one, maybe. I'd like to try that as a rules mod, maybe for my next game. So the thing is, the Union has pushed the Confederacy away from that pass through the Appalachian Mountains through or via Chattanooga, and that's going to wind up being a critical strategic development. Because if you see this in your games, like what I think is advisable to do is to run two army groups down that opening towards Atlanta, and then just wait for reinforcements. Like they don't have to do anything except maybe disrupt or maybe go for the center. The center reinforcement star, or just have those army groups hanging out on the river. The what is it? The Chattahoochee River, anywhere near Columbus or something like that, and yeah, just wait until the Union doesn't have to wait long. Maybe like 4 or 5 months, and then they'd be at like 15, the full strength of army groups, but you'd have 2 or 3 groups behind enemy lines, and then you could press the south from everywhere, and then maybe prevent retreats. So you see the north like pressing the attack. Not much opportunity at this point in the game for the South to take any offensive operations. You're still playing defense, for sure. All-out attack on the eastern seaboard as well, around Richmond. Why not? I mean, they outnumber the Reds 3-1. So yeah, it's a complicated setup here because you always have to make sure every group is engaged once with no overlap, calculating it. So it's going to be maybe 3-1 in the southern attack and 2-1 in the north. So this is probably going to wind up going really bad for the south here. Resolve the attack. Oh, that was a big defeat for the... Well, no, it was an exchange, yeah, because there's 2 result. Everything got destroyed. See, that's all it takes. But they'll have the South will have a reinforcement, but it really thins things out on the eastern side of the map, yeah. So this is going to be... big battles. Let's get north of Florence. Yeah. That's an exchange, but it's really bad for... Yeah, 3-1, 1 result on the modified CRT is an exchange result, and that's all the Union needs here. Second battle. That's an exchange. So actually the Union's front lines are going to push the Confederacy way back here. And this is the type of thing that you, or was it? Let's see. That was 2-1. What was the result there? 2. Still though, yeah, the Southern battle was the one that did all the damage there. Because there's 2 army groups behind Confederacy front lines. So move up from Wilmington back to the capital. But yeah, South is in trouble. On the other side of the map here, what can I do? You have to fall back. You can't let the North just like run, straight down the railway to Mobile or New Orleans. So those two avenues of advance have to be plugged, but there's nothing stopping the two northern armies there from passing through Chattanooga towards Atlanta, and that's unhinges the defensive position for the rebels. So it's bad. It's bad as bad can be, actually. Low percentage 1-to-1 counterattack. Not advisable, but you can see these desperate situations manifest themselves for the Confederate player, and then this is exactly how you fall into the trap of attacking with unfavorable odds. So 3 on a 1-to-1. Modified is attack or retreat 2, so that's a failed attack. Yeah. So the door is open now. That's the end of 1861, sorry. We're going to get replacement armies here. So overall, you can see that there wasn't much movement after the first year of battle. However, a huge hole opened up in the Confederates' lines here, and the game's about to get ugly here. Typical, though. This is just, you see this in a lot of games. So, question is, how many blue armies am I going to run through that pass, through Chattanooga, past Rome, to Atlanta? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, 6. So we'll fast forward, and we'll show you what happens, right? Like, skip ahead a few turns, and this is what you're going to see after that pass opened up. It's just gets worse and worse. You have a couple breakouts on the eastern seaboard, like a landing at Savannah that the rebels couldn't cover. North pressing the attack right into, I think they do occupy Stephenville. So the capital is about to fall here. Yeah. Even in exchange, right? It's the exchanges are, it's death by exchange. if you're the Confederacy, we'll play some Battle Hymn of the Republic here. Yeah, that's that's what you're gonna hear when you play this game. Rebels are in full retreat here. Although nothing is gonna probably work from this point. All you can do is extend the game as long as possible. Now, this situation would be fine, okay? It would be fine if the year was 1864, 1865 in game scale. But because it's only 1863, or not even 1862, although in this game, the rebels they didn't get good rules at all. It was the Union with exchanges and straight up defender eliminated. And I think the rebels only got like one spectacular victory that I remember clearly. So I mean, this playthrough session report does not really showcase the advantages of the modified CRT. However, it's it's better because it allows the red player to get more units on the board. Although it didn't, like I said, it's not going to work out in the end. I still say it's an improvement. I've played games too where like it's pretty much a foregone conclusion who's going to win around like 1863, but the red guys had one army hanging out in the center of the Appalachian mountain range, and it was so hard to snuff out. Like the blue guys had to make 4 or 5 attempts at 1-1 just to finish the game off. So, but like I said before, that situation is fine if it can occur in 1865, but usually you see that much sooner. So there is still a little bit of work to be done, like a little bit of rules tweaking. I haven't found the perfect balance yet, but I still think that this game has a great basic framework that you can play around with the little details, and you can I will be able to dial it in so you get a more even interesting game. I think I'll have to sit down and think a little bit more about what other tweaks you could make, but the adjusted CRT is the first step. I think maybe a column shift on the CRT for defending cities as opposed to just double defense, something like that. Anyway, I think it's close. Like I'm getting close to having like the ideal rule set here. And anyway, I enjoy this game. I still say it has a really thoughtful, interesting map. Game's fast. I mean, you can play it like chess with someone else who's familiar with the rules, and make up your own little revisions and tweaks. I also didn't mention the O and the G. So what that's for is if the blue, I guess, and if you modify the rules, I guess you could say the red player give them one chip. So if you have to end your turn next to an O or a G, and then next turn you enter the letter, and then the next turn you appear on the other side of the Florida Peninsula, and then you can move. So it's just like an abstract way to go around the panhandle. Another thing that I thought of, maybe you could have something like the max size for the red army being the same as blue, except have like a checklist of available reinforcements. Like you would run out completely, and every time you lose a piece, like you check it off or something like that. That could be something that you could implement easily. I still think they should have less reinforcements per reinforcement turn. I like that, like 2 to 3. Yeah, there's potential. There's potential there too. Uh, The main thing is though, I don't think you want to go too overboard with the rules because that would ruin the intent of this game, which is just like pure simplicity, like strategic simplicity. So anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's what it looks like with the Union at maximum strength. That's 15, and the red has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Almost full strength. They're at 8. So you can see it's not enough. There, that ratio, even though it's not 2 to 1 in total army strength, it's still overwhelming. But big battle here. It's right in the center of the map. But this is one that that was, yeah, defeat, another defeat. And the Union is just, you can see, tightening the noose here. And I'll just finish up with some final thoughts. So overall, the John Griffey adjusted CRT is a market improvement. It allows for more armies to appear and remain on the map. If you use the adjusted CRT, you'll see better representations of front lines on the move as opposed to pockets of resistance here, there, and everywhere. So bravo, here's another clear example of a fan making a game better. It's still super hard though for the Confederacy to do well in this game. It may not last that much longer in the end, but at least at some point they should reach their maximum deployment strength, which will at least give the red player the illusion of greater power and potential. Although in my demonstration the Union did get much better rolls and still won handily. By the way, Griffey also supplies rules for use of battle cry minis with this map. So you can play with artillery units, infantry, and cavalry that each have different movement, attack, and defensive values. So someday I might review that option as well. But overall, Civil War 1961 edition by Avalon Hill is a commendable game for being the first of its kind. It's easy to learn. You can play it for free on Vassal. You can print and play the map and dress it out with proper minis, or buy a used copy online for cheap if you aren't into mods. Either way, it's just a solid design that you can tinker with, and it's a great entry-level setup if you want to introduce a newcomer to wargaming. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more content coming soon.